So glad to have you. We will go ahead and proceed. Just want to remind everybody about housekeeping. Please type your email into the chat box to receive your training certificate. That will be sent to you by email. Please use the chat box to ask any questions you may have. We want your videos on. If we have a little bit of disruption with the presentation today, we may ask you to turn your video off, but we will wait and see. I think it all depends on the bandwidth and everything else going on for if we have that fuzziness that sometimes occurs. Once again, just mute your microphone during the presentation. And then the ideas generated from today's discussion will be posted on the Nutrition Services website later on this week. So what are we going to talk about today? Well, our agenda includes, we want to welcome Allie Lampman. She joined the Nutrition Services team this week, and she will be working in the school meals program and the summer food service program. So welcome, Allie. We want to discuss the COVID-19 waivers. There have been some extensions, and there is a new waiver that we will be discussing. We want to update you on the administrative tasks that need to be completed for July and August to get ready for back to school. We're going to have a little presentation on farm to school, back to school food service, what you need to be thinking about. We're going to break out in groups like we did at our last session, and then we'll come back together and discuss some of the things that you had the opportunity to discuss in your groups. So that's today's agenda. So let's talk about the nationwide USDA waivers that have been extended. They've been extended through June 30th, 2021. And for some of you, for some schools that maybe didn't serve meals during the summer for the unanticipated school closure, these may be the first time you're hearing about these waivers. So the first one is the mealtime waiver, which this waiver provides flexibility for meal start and end time. So normally in the school year, there are certain times that breakfast needs to be served and lunch needs to be served. This waiver gives flexibility to extending those times. So for example, some schools plan to serve students in their lunchroom, and so they're extending their lunch meal time so that they can start earlier and end later. So it just gives schools that flexibility. The next waiver we want to talk about is the non-congregate feeding waiver. And this waiver gives flexibilities for meals to be offered to students doing remote learning. So if some students aren't returning to school, and they are going to be doing remote learning, this waiver gives that flexibility for meals to be served off-site. The third waiver, parent guardian pickup waiver, well, it does require a point of service meal count. Students still need to be counted by eligibility status, and we need to ensure that the meals are being picked up for the students that the parent is coming for, okay? So there is that waiver for remote learning that a parent can pick up the meal for their child, but you must ensure that that child is receiving that meal, and that does require counting by eligibility type. And then the fourth waiver, offer versus serve flexibility for 9 through 12 grade students. This is a new waiver. And this waiver says typically for 9 through 12 grade students, offer versus serve is required. With this waiver, it allows schools not to require offer versus serve. So complete meals for delivery to classrooms or for students doing distant learning. So all components would need to be served in the required portion sizes. There would not be offer versus serve. So another flexibility from USDA. And then the fourth waiver I want to talk about is the meal pattern flexibility. And this is on a case-by-case basis. So what that means is it allows sponsors to claim meals if unable to meet meal pattern requirements. So that would be after exhausting all sources of procuring food components or one particular food component. There is a flexibility that sponsors can apply for. So those meals can be claimed for reimbursement. With that, you must notify Nutrition Services at NDE and complete a waiver request, and then approval must be obtained by our office for those meals to be claimed for reimbursement. Now, all of the waivers are available on the Nutrition Services homepage or website. It's the homepage where you can look at each one of these waivers for the specifics that are contained in the waivers. But I have provided you a brief summary of what those waivers are. So as you plan for meal service for August, you have to plan for meals to meet meal pattern requirements, and that includes the required portion sizes for the grade groups. There is no flexibility with vegetable subgroups, so you need to plan for the vegetable subgroups. You need to plan for milk variety. So how will you do that? Well, you could have what's called a pre-order, where students would tell you in advance what type of milk they want, what kind of milk. Do they want skim, chocolate, 1% white? But you do still have to offer a variety, and the easiest way to get around that would be a pre-order to obtain what the students' preferences are, and that is allowable. Water availability, we have to ensure students have access to water during meal times. So some things for you to think about as you plan your menus and meal service. How will you accomplish these? So let's move on to administrative reminders. Now is a busy time because we are gearing back up for school. The reimbursement rates have not been released yet from USDA. Typically, those are released in July. They have not been released yet, but we anticipated the next couple of weeks that those rates will be released. Have you determined your paid meal prices for school year 2021? So that would require completing the paid lunch equity tool, determining what those paid meal prices would be. And I want to remind you that the adult prices we did release from our office, and that is $3.85 for lunch and $2.35 for breakfast. You will need your paid meal prices as you complete your school meals application for school year 2021, which is available now to be completed. As of July 1st, that was released so that if a school wants to complete their application now, they certainly can. But you will need your paid meal prices to complete the application. Want to remind you also about the renewal date for DUNS. That number cannot, or that renewal date cannot be older than 1 year. So if you have not renewed your DUNS number, now would be a good time to get that going, because it takes a while to get your email verification that it has been received. So Look at your DUNS number, the date that it was renewed last year. If it's older than 1 year, you're going to need to renew it. We cannot approve your application with an outdated DUNS number. Notify Nutrition Services of any new food service managers, claim contact, or authorized representative. When you complete the application, you will mark the box that this person is new. That is how we know you have someone new in one of those areas on the sponsor application by marking new. You can also send an email notifying us. We will add them to our list to follow up with. Non-public schools need to complete their annual financial report by July 15th. So that is open now. So complete the annual financial report. Public schools do not need to complete the annual financial report. It is only for non-public schools. The direct certification list for school year 2021 is available. So you can look at your match list that was matched on July 1st. And the match is made based on the most current enrollment information. So information from advisor for public schools and for person ID for non-public schools. So the match is made on the most current enrollment information that the department has for your students. Then you would want to notify your direct certification households of meal eligibility. You want to do that so that when you send out applications, you're not sending it to households that have directly certified students because they are already eligible for meal benefits. So that process can start now of notifying your direct certification households. So another area we want to talk about is what is your school planning for the distribution and receiving of income eligibility applications? With the current situation that we have now, probably not going to be having open houses like you have had in that past. So how are you going to distribute income eligibility applications? Well, some suggestions to think about: online registration, and then make sure you include the income eligibility application in that packet for households to complete. You could distribute the application if you're currently serving meals through the summer food service program. You could ask households as they pick up their grab and go meals if they want an application. Just another avenue to get the application out there. We need to ensure that all households have access to the income eligibility application. You can mail it and include a prepaid return envelope or designate a drop-off point for applications. For households needing assistance in completing the income eligibility application, you could establish office hours, and those hours could be outside to promote social distancing. Some ideas, because we need to make sure all households have access to that income eligibility application, and we want to encourage all households to apply if they're eligible. Turning it over to Donna now.
Donna, unmute.
Okay, I have to explain that took me so long because I moved my monitors around today. So now when I go from one to the other, I'm going the opposite direction. It's not going well, people. All right, so basically I'm starting over here. Sorry about that. Sarah Smith, our local foods consultant, couldn't be with us on the webinar today, so I'm filling in for her to talk about some farm to school issues, mostly about USDA farm to school grants. And we need to shout out a big congratulations to Burwell Public Schools for receiving a school year 2021 USDA Farm to School Planning Grant in the amount of $38,725. And that's huge. That's wonderful. What Burwell Public Schools plans to do with this grant is develop a farm to school action plan that will provide the framework for building a culture where locally sourced foods are served in the cafeteria with farm to school curriculum and hands-on activities for students grades K through 12. The plan will explore new relationships with local agricultural producers for food procurement, student garden and greenhouse opportunities, recipe development, and taste testing events for students. Makes me want to be there myself, right? Students will gain valuable habits in making healthy food choices that will decrease their risks for developing heart disease, diabetes, and cancer. Students will also explore agricultural careers that will directly affect the future of economic development in Burwell, Nebraska. We are excited to follow Burwell on this great adventure and learn more about the project from the team as it progresses and as they share out their successes. So once again, congratulations, Burwell Public Schools. Well done. So let's continue with the positive information on the next slide. Sean.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay, so we also need to talk about the fact that the Nebraska Department of Education Nutrition Services received a USDA Farm to School grant award. And this was a state agency award in the amount of almost $100,000 to expand capacity for Nebraska Extension's effort, working with the Extension Department, to support communities across Nebraska in developing farm to school activities. Nebraska Extension will gain tools, resources, trainings, and technical assistance to better support local efforts across the state. And what I think is personally really exciting, and I think a lot of people do too, is that as part of this project, we will be able to begin planning a 2021 Nebraska Farm to School Institute that will offer up to 8 competitively awarded school or district farm to school teams the opportunity to participate in the Institute, where they will begin action planning for farm to school at their local level. Awarded teams will receive subawards to further their farm to school plans. So congratulations to Sarah and her team and UNL Extension and everybody involved in writing this grant. This is awesome news. All right, next. Thank you. Okay, so our last slide here is just a little bit about USDA Farm to School grants in general. In school year 2021, 12.1 million was awarded to 159 projects. That's the highest ever yearly amount awarded by USDA for this endeavor, and also the highest number of projects that they were awarded to. The Farm to School Act, these grants are made available through the Farm to School Act, which is housed under Section 18 of the Richard B. Russell National School Lunch Act. And basically on an annual basis, they award these grants for planning, purchasing equipment, developing school gardens, developing partnerships, and implementing farm to school programs. Now, if you notice at the bottom of your screen, in what would be my left-hand corner, so I assume it's the same for you, there is a picture of something called the DIRT. The DIRT is the USDA's Office of Community Food Systems e-letter that is a monthly letter that is really full of wonderful information about farm to school, updates, webinar info, relevant news, and also field notes. And I personally know that this is true because I get it myself. There is a link here that I will post later on the chat that you can go to subscribe to the Dirt. And you can check out the archives there. You can explore grantee success stories, resource highlights, and census facts. So it is a nice little e-letter that will be available. All right, so next up, let's go to, so we're going to switch gears a little bit here and talk a little bit about going back to school and what food service will look like, which is the hot topic, I know, for all of you. Let's go back and recap the Serving Up Great School Meals, which I like to call SUGSM, 2 weeks ago. On June 23rd, we had a really good session, we received a lot of good feedback, and we also felt that it was a really good session. Basically, we divided you guys up into groups, which you will be doing later today. And then we gave you 4 questions to work on to come up with what are known as supporting considerations. As Beth put so well on the last webinar, we cannot give you definitive answers for a lot of these questions, but there will be supporting considerations. There's a lot of information that we've compiled to help you make your decisions as you look at going back to school this fall. So you emailed your answers and information to me. I compiled them and I put that document, which is called the Serving Up Great School Meals Webinar Discussion, June 23rd, on the Nutrition Services website homepage. And there you will also find the webinar, which you can watch. And before you start it, once again, I have to do this to show you this is what it looks like at the beginning of the webinar. My face was frozen, and anyway, kind of cute. Been wearing that around the house. Makes for a good conversation. So anyway, there's the webinar. There are the PowerPoint slides. There is the document from the discussion. And there's another great resource that is also posted there. It's another document called Considerations for Food Service 2021. Basically, this is a document created by food service directors. A lot of them and a lot of you are on the webinar, I believe, are responsible for this document, which was great, well written, has a lot of supporting considerations in it. I mean, let's face it, you guys are the pros on the front line of the food service operation. You know the questions to ask, and you know some of the solutions that will be helpful. So a lot of this information, we couldn't have done this without you. So thank you very much for participating and putting these documents together. Second thing on this slide is, again, a mention of Launch Nebraska, which is the Nebraska website for reopening schools in the fall. And there is the address, the launchne.com. You go to that website, click on conditions for learning at the top, and then you will get a list of conditions of different supporting considerations, I should say, get my terminology right here. And you'll download a document that's 8 pages in length that contains a lot of supporting considerations that, again, were compiled with the help of a lot of food service directors across the state. And again, I thank you for that, because it gives you considerations for different types of meal service in the classroom, in the cafeteria, taking home sack lunches, however you're going to work your food service, whatever works best for your operation. So that is a really good resource. And then the last thing I want to talk about today is the updating of the Professional Standards handout, Professional Standards 2020, which is on our Professional Standards webpage on the Nutrition Services website. And this document has been revised to give you some more flexibility with training hours. We realize that there is some concern out there about not meeting the required training hours school year 1920 because you had to stop so soon. And a lot of you didn't get to do what you wanted to do to complete your training hours, such as go to the state conference. So it's always been our policy that within one school year, let's say this school year 2021, if you earn excess hours more than you need, you could roll them over to the next school year. Now we're also allowing you to roll them backwards. You can go forwards or you can go backwards, because that will allow you to make up the deficit you may have in your 1920 hours and make it a little less difficult for you to do that. So be sure and check out that document. It also has some updated current training opportunities dealing with COVID and our situation right now. Yeah, I knew I was going to do that sometime. It's good that's at the end because I'm almost over. So anyway, I'll be putting some of the addresses in the chat box. Beth has already put, I believe, the address of the Nutrition Services homepage, which is where you will go for these webinar recordings and other resource documents and information. So I want to thank everyone for being here today. This is so wonderful to see faces and people I just barely recognize. And then those of you I've worked with more closely, it's awesome to see you here. So thank you. And be sure and let us know if you have any questions at all. And now Beth is going to tell you how the rest of this webinar is going to go. Take it away, Beth.
Thanks, Donna. Hi, everybody. We're going to be doing breakout discussions again. We're going to do it a little bit differently this time. We are going to have a total of 12 groups, and we're going to divide the topics between 1 through 6 and 7 through 12. So you'll be redirected accordingly. We're going to give you 20 minutes to discuss. You're going to record your ideas and report back to us during the recap. So you need to make sure that you have somebody selected to do the recording, like last week, if you were on the Zoom last week. And then you're going to send your recording ideas to donna.handley@nebraska.gov, and so that she can record it and post it on the website again, and it'll be under the 7/7 weekly or Zoom meeting. So next slide, please. Okay, so groups 1 through 6 are going to be discussing the tiering or planning for the different levels of risk for that the CDC has and others have come up with. A lot of schools are using the red, yellow, green because it's easy to remember. Other people are following the CDC and the health departments as levels or phases, 1, 2, 3, 4. So if you're going to be using those, this is a great idea to share what your schools are planning and how the meal service will be during those tierings and the levels of risk. So green is kind of easy for it. Go ahead, that's fine. Because that'll be the lowest for when you're doing the red, yellow, and green. And the red would be when you are out of school doing e-learning. Okay, next one. And to go with the tiering for groups 1 through 6, you're going to be focusing on communication. Effective and ongoing communication is a critical component to reopening schools in a safe and controlled manner. Food service needs to be at the table with other key school stakeholders. How are you going to communicate your meal service ideas, concerns, and needs to administrators, vendors? Be in contact with your local health departments and others at school. Okay, so discussion topics for groups 7 through 12. What is your school planning for meal service alternatives? Are you going to be in the lunchroom, classroom? Are you going to do a combination of those two? Are you going to have grab-a-go? for some of those students, and some of those students are going to be in the classrooms. Just what are the plans that you are thinking about? And then the other question is, how will you ensure an accurate point of service meal count is going to be taken for each meal, so that you know you can enter in that nice little number at the end of the month for your claim. So the who, what, when, and where, and how. Who's going to do it? Is it, if you're in the classrooms, is it going to be a teacher, a para? Will a secretary do it? Who's going to make sure that each person has a reimbursable meal? So again, we're going to be going into breakout rooms. Katie will be doing her back of the house things, and you will be transferred there shortly.
Yep,
I will be posting these questions in the chat box so that if you forget what they are, you will have a reminder.
Sure. Awesome. Thank you, Beth. Yep.
Thanks, Katie.
I've got all of you assigned to one of actually 11 groups. So we'll have to go 1 through 6 and 7 through 11. So I'm sorry to kind of mess with your plan, Beth, and the rest of the crew. So when you are, when I kind of send you off into your breakout rooms, you'll see a little dialog box appear on your screen, and then you'll just have to click to join. And at the top of that box, it should tell you which breakout room number you're assigned to. So that's how you'll know which of the two kind of different questions that Beth shared with us, which of those two you'll need to talk about within your group. But if you have any questions, the chat box should still be functional for you, so feel free to ask those and we can help give you instructions if you need them. Like she mentioned, you'll have 20 minutes to chat and discuss before we come back to here to the big group together to debrief. So I'll give you a little warning when you've got 2 minutes left, and then it'll count down from 15 seconds and automatically send you back into the big group here, okay? So if you don't go anywhere, if you don't see that dialog box to send you off into your breakout room, make sure to let us know by using the chat box, okay? Thank you.
I don't know if anybody can hear me. This is Mary at UTAN. I'm still not in a group.
Yeah, Mary, sorry, I don't know what happened. I'll send you now. The
Okay,
magic
perfect. Thanks,
work.
Katie.
Thanks, Mary.
Appreciate it.
Bye. Everyone's assigned and joined except for us NDE folks. Hopefully it's working.
It is. Positivity.
Yeah. Good job.
Yeah, Kathy, did you get moved to group?
I think when I came back from helping group 4, I put several people in groups. And the ones that I see aren't assigned are you, Beth, Donna, Marianne, Sean, and Allie. I thought Michelle was in here, but maybe she left, or else I put her in a group on accident. Michelle.
That's what you could do to say, if you don't behave, I'm putting you in a group.
Sending you to a breakout room.
I think Patty Rhodes is just now joining us, so you might want to send her to a room.
Thank you. I sent her to room 8. I think I've tried to send her to a room like 3 times.
Well, she just rejoined. It looked like she just rejoined.
Oh, okay. Sure. Hopefully this one will work.
Yeah. Yep, she's gone.
Oh, good. Okay. Or I mean, not like good, but
I
I'm
know,
glad she
but she
joined
went there,
someone.
yeah.
This is so weird because it's like poof, they disappear. Where did they go? You know? Woo.
Exactly.
Kevin bought me like a 2-pound bag of Twizzlers, and I think I've eaten half of it accidentally already.
Marianne.
Like
would
today
like
alone.
that.
What'd you say?
Marianne would like that.
Yeah, she does like licorice, doesn't she? Where is
I'm
Marianne?
glad it's at your house.
Next time I'll have him deliver to you. I don't need it. Do you like Twizzlers or like Red Vines, or what's your favorite brand?
Twizzler, the red ropes,
Oh, sure.
the cherry,
Uh-huh.
cherry ropes.
I like
That's
those
my
too.
absolute
Your
favorite.
favorite.
Yeah.
I think I've got the strawberry flavor.
Oh, trust me, I eat those too.
You like black licorice as well?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, Sean, you can move to the first recap if you want.
What was that?
You can move to the recap.
Okay. I'm actually in a group right now.
Is it good?
I'm in group 11. I'm muted so they don't hear me.
Fine.
Wanted to see what it looked like, so I joined. It's pretty cool.
How can we join?
Well, you have to have 2 computers on and be logged on to both Zooms at the same time.
Oh, okay, got it. Never mind. It sounds like you're watching a soap opera.
Mm-hmm.
You can hear it.
The others will be allowed to come down to the cafeteria. And also,
Confused. Can you hear those voices?
Yeah, Sean's listening to it,
Oh,
but she's muted.
because you're the Sean.
Yeah.
I didn't know if that was you, and I put you in. Okay.
Holly's on. Okay.
Yellow and green. And I think that's about all that I know so far. But the law remains tied in that thing.
What I'm hearing from districts is they are looking at going into the cafeteria, and with some of the waivers that have came out, everybody's looking at prepackaged silverware. And when you look at groups where they come to the cafeteria from classroom, they are considered as a group. And I think we have a number of schools that are looking at keeping them at one table as a group. And that way you would be able to do the less social distancing that way. And that would be, that would be one way that you would be able to still have to go through your cafeteria line. Big question is, what would you do at the first group session? Or, so that though there is really, when you have a service worker or a trained volunteer that would actually put the, they'll do a choice of whatever directly onto the tray as they would go. And depending upon your point of sale, you could do, if it's infinite campus, you could do from point of sale to be able to track your students. You are actually looking at prepackaging your fruits and vegetables as they go through. Have your districts had any discussion on the virtual learning when the students would not be
Start
I want to clarify that. That was under the summer food service program, and that program is not going to be available if school's in session and you're doing remote learning. So you're going to have to do a point of service meal count by student eligibility. So with that being said, one of the questions you had was, how are you going to ensure accurate point of service meal count? And so it sounds like most of you are going to be serving in the lunchroom. Is that correct? Or is anyone delivering to the classroom?
We are gonna do the lunchroom.
Lunchroom? And extend your times?
I think so, yes.
Okay.
We're doing breakfast in the classroom for K through 6.
Okay. And how will you be ensuring an accurate point of service meal count? So you'll deliver it to the classroom and a roster will be marked?
I'm guessing that we haven't gotten to that yet. That's a good question.
Okay. So that'd be a question to make sure.
Today.
I have a question for everyone. How are you doing the 9 through 12 grade? Have close cameras of able to look cameras.
I'm actually waking up a day because we're going to set up tables and that kind of thing is actually we're going to have a table down first. And we're going to assist them by table to go make their food so that we can control the amount of kids doing it, getting their food on time. And then it's going to be we see how the time goes with that. That's going to take a lot longer, and we might have to adjust our schedule later. But obviously, the one thing that's slowed us down is certainly moving forward with the salad bar. Most of that won't be there, so we'll speed things up quite a bit. So we're hoping that we'll dismiss them as that way and have kids pushing and shoving, trying to get to the front of the line, that kind of thing. So that's what we're going to try. Again,
Do you allow your upper grade levels to like cameras to like sunlight?
10 miles from the nearest town.
Oh,
No, we know the country. No, we don't.
okay.
So Stacy, that raises a kind of important question. Is administration going to allow open campus for those grades?
We are still in discussion about it. But kind of parking where there is like a part of subway. We also have other restaurants next to the field. They usually push during the school year because slowing down with the rate of the pandemic. So I just don't know how it's gonna work. Going off campus. That's a goal.
Mm-hmm.
Still in discussion.
So Tom, you talked about having a person serve the fruits and vegetables instead of the students going through a bar, which they will not be able to do. But an individual serving fruits and vegetables. Is that the direction you think your schools are going to be going?
Well, right now, most of them are looking at it different and put on the table, looking at as long as the individual serving it,
That would certainly cut down on plate waste. because with high school students, it's 1 cup of vegetable and 1 cup of fruit that has to be served if you don't do offer versus serve. So that definitely would help with plate waste.
Correct. The big issue is as they start going through, and as students are able to put their number in the point, they would have everybody, like that. So that's the way it is. And individual working on the student as they go through verifying that we're scanning the barcode. If they had a lanyard, wearing a lanyard with your barcode on it, and
Mm-hmm.
really not a couple of different answers out there, but really nothing that is just sort of timely fashion. So we do have a lot of administrators that are still making their lunch in a short period of time. You're looking at those things with not really and social distancing.
Yep.
Sean, I mean, my question is that by on the note there on weight basis, having an individual, with what's right on it.
Right. Without doing offer versus serve, all trays have to look identical and all the portion size has to be met for each required component. Well, who is going to report back? You need to assign someone to report to the group. Volunteer. Quick, quick. Ah. They're gone.
Okay, it looks like everybody is just about back. So we'll give them a little bit longer here. And we will start our recap. Okay, we're going to start with groups 1 through 6. And we will start with group 1 to begin with and have you answer how will meals be provided based on either the tiering or the level of risk at your school. Group 1 is Jenny, Barb, Cindy, Clarissa, Dana, and Darwin and company. Are you guys back?
You should be. Just a reminder to unmute yourself so we can hear you.
Okay. So again, that group number 1 was Jenny, Barb, Cindy, Carissa. Okay.
We're going to start school as normal. So until we hear different, so we are planning on doing everything like we did before.
Okay, how are you going to communicate your meal service ideas, concerns, and needs to administrators and others?
We have a meeting actually next Tuesday with all staff. The only concern that was really brought up in our group is disposable trays were brought up earlier to use disposable trays and silverware. But if our superintendents are starting normal, does that mean disposable or does that mean real trays?
It's up to the school, but you can use dish machines are long as they are up to temp or you're using a sanitizing dishwasher, they will work.
That's good to know.
Yeah. Okay, we'll go to group 2.
Yep, that is Alice, Anita, Karen, Carolyn, Jennifer, Joanne, Kathy, Melinda, and Maria, I think.
Yep, we talked about the red, yellow, and green. You know, obviously green is served in the cafeteria, yellow possibly classrooms are alternating between the classroom and the cafeteria. And then red, obviously, according to the CDC, that means you're at home learning. So figuring out how to get those, if you're doing the summer feeding program now, are you delivering? Are parents picking up? You know, having volunteers to get that food to those students is what we kind of discuss. We also discussed, like, for breakfast, you know, signing up for breakfast the day before so that way you have a count for that class, having the teachers give it to you at the end of the day for the next day. We talked about water coolers, you know, how are we going to make sure the kids stay hydrated? My school bought water bottles for every student, and each student is responsible for keeping it clean and sanitized. Well, we also talked about having water coolers dispensed in the classroom so they're not going to the water fountains. And then the second question was, how are you going to communicate with we said hope and prayers, you know, but some of our schools have safety committees, a department head meeting, a crisis team, you know, communicating with those that kind of think that the cafeteria is apart from everything else, but we're a really big part of the school. Just when one of us goes down, I know my school has really stepped up to help us out. So I think I hit everything that we talked about.
Yeah, I think so.
All right, thank you.
Awesome. Okay, great. So group 3 is Annie, Chelsea, Danny, Karen, Kathy, Carrie, Rosetta, and so who's out of that group? Okay, group 3, Annie, Chelsea, Danny, Karen, Kathy, Carrie, and Rosetta. Group. Did they all leave?
Give them a couple seconds.
Yeah.
I've got group 5 in the chat box. I'm almost done.
Okay.
So then they can.
Okay. We'll go ahead and go to group 4 and come back to group 3, see if they're still there. So Brenna, the 2 Debs, Donna, Deidre, Lori, and others. So group 4, who's your spokesperson?
Don't be shy now.
I'm Brenna from COZAD, and we discussed our red, yellow, and green. Green would be to be serving in the cafeterias with students separated. Yellow, students would be in the classrooms and be with their own classes all day. And red would obviously be at home, and we'd be doing to-go meals.
Okay, what about communicating?
For us, we communicate with our food specialist, OPA, and we've been putting up plexiglass and things like that. One of the big concerns was like salad bars, offer versus serve, you know, a la carte, things like that. Those are the biggest concerns right now.
Okay, that's good. Okay, anybody else from group 4? Okay, group 5, Kathy, Dana, Dawn, Deidre, Elaine, Donna, Evelyn, Kelly, Mary, and Melda.
Well, I can start. We were talking about the red, yellow, and green, and I think the consensus in our group is just the lack of communication right now between what's actually going on, that we don't have a lot of answers. We talked a lot about utilizing, if we can, the playgrounds. One of the schools has a fellowship area. They have a little bit more real estate, but that we need to look outside the box, you know, in the commons areas and that, where we can have extra real estate. Like here at UTAN, we might have to add an extra lunchtime, just depending. With that said, we talked about what happens if today at 2 o'clock we get the notice that we go to yellow tomorrow and we shift gears. How do we communicate that to our team? You know, and I really encourage everybody to have a voice, because we need to be talking with administration and know what's going on to stay ahead of it. We talked about grab and goes. You know, I hear Sean talk a lot about shelf stable items. And I know I was telling the gals and guys that we're doing some sack lunches at first so that we can try to spread out, like the high school kids out on the patio, and get them outside for some fresh air, hopefully. That's what I wrote down.
Very good.
Yeah, and I think we're just gonna have to be very willing to communicate administration and not hold back our questions, because we need to know ahead of time, are we gonna be going to, you know, sack lunch? Do we have to send them out? Do we have to send them home on Wednesday when we took out meat to thaw, you know, 2 days before? And are we not going to be able to use that? So we need to be able to be prepared for different things, and we just have to be in communication with our administration.
Yeah, and we did talk about, like, the first couple days of school, you know, I'm going to prepare a handout and I'm having my superintendent present it to the entire staff, because I think, you know, he's a little bit more weighted in his conversation than Mary from the kitchen, you know, like I said. And so we're going to present it in the first day, and this is how we're doing it, and making sure everybody knows we still have to be very fluid. It's changing day to day.
And how important our helpers, you know, be it the teachers, the paras, extra staff, how necessary they are going to be for helping us get through this in the cafeteria and with the children.
Very good. Very good comments there. Okay, group 6, Barb, Donna, Ginny, Heidi, Irene, and Rhonda. Comment? Okay, that group 6 is Barb, Donna M, Ginny, Heidi, Irene, Rhonda.
Different ways to provide our meals to try to keep the kids safe while we were doing it. At our school, nothing is set for sure, because we kind of are going to have to wait and find out how things fall before school actually starts. We've discussed having, say, kindergarten and first grade come together in the lunchroom. We're a very small school. And maybe having second and third grade eat in their rooms. And so by the time kindergarten and first are done, then we can have fourth, fifth, and sixth rotate through. We've also talked about possibly using a home ec room as another feeding area, that they could go in there and set up tables, you know, and eat there.
Awesome. Those are good comments. Okay, just to recap a little bit for groups 1 through 6 on the tiering. Most of you are using the red, yellow, and green, which is pretty suited to schools because it's easier and the kids can associate with it. The other thing that I pulled out from what you've said is thinking out of the box, which is good. Being prepared for different scenarios, so that if you do go from green to yellow, that you have a plan in place already. Communicating is very important. I did hear somebody said that they were going to try to do pre-ordering, which would be help you out a little bit. The other thing about talking to the vendors to see what's available. And now we're going to go to the next slide, which is group 7 through 12, 11, 7 through 11 recap. And we're going to be going over what is your school planning for meal service alternatives and how will you ensure that an accurate point of service meal count is taken for each meal, because that is required because we have the free, reduced, and paid students. So the group 7 is Zaida, Jan, Jerry, Mary P, Debbie, Myron, Nikki, and Pam. So go ahead and unmute.
Okay, yeah, we've talked quite a bit about for the meal service alternatives. Until we know our definite counts and stuff like that, it might be kind of hard to decide for sure how we're going to do arrangements. Some said they already know that students won't be sitting in the cafeteria, they will be going back to classrooms, possibly doing sack lunches, maybe have a choice of hot or cold, but still going back to the classroom. Someone else said that they're planning to divide the cafeteria by grades, but nothing is set in stone yet. Quite a bit of it, there's still meetings coming up, so this is still a discussion that is going on. So like, I don't know yet until probably the first week in August for sure what our numbers will be or how we'll be arranging that. But for my school, it's probably not quite as tough because I'm a satellite school. So meals will be delivered to me and then I distribute from there. As far as like the milk and getting milk choices, somebody said they might just put milk in a crate and take it to the classrooms and then hand out that way. So they have a choice, but it's still somebody handing out. Somebody will have to be individually probably handing out silverware, condiments, napkins, all that type of stuff. It's really, there were still quite a bit of questions. There were still questions about too, whether or not they were going to be doing trays, sack lunches, solid trays, and then dishwashing. There's still quite a bit of unknowns, but everybody's thinking, but there's still a lot of unknowns. So, and the same kind of with the point of service, the meal count, that's kind of also, it's kind of, they're still trying to figure some of that stuff out. For my situation, I will probably be doing the meal count. I'm probably also the one that will be dishing them out. So, but for others, they said they have somebody that, like for breakfast, they write down the student's name each time they have a breakfast and what their grade level is. And that's how they do the point of service. There again, it's just kind of all, I think until we start our hands-on, actually get in there and start doing it, we're gonna have, still continue to have questions until we get going with it.
Okay, very good. Anybody else from that group have any comments? Okay. You put group 8 in there? Group 8, she did. Corey.
You see it? Okay.
Thank you. Corey, Holly, Jackie, John, Kathy, Noah, and others. So whoever is the spokesperson or spokespeople, go ahead and unmic yourself.
That would be me. I am from Wallace. We talked about a lot what she had said. Only one school, their elementary kids have ID cards, and they would be using those for the point of sale. And the older kids would have rosters with barcodes. Another one said that they would have hand sanitizers before and after, that the kids could make sure they would get hand sanitized before.
I know we are getting touchless water fountains put in right beside my cafeteria so I can have touchless water systems. And another one was online pre-ordering for e-learning. I am going to be feeding them their entree, and I will put their silverware on their tray and their entree, and they will go sit down. My kindergarten through first grade will sit in my cafeteria, and the other elementary might have to sit in their room. But we don't know for sure. That's just a plan.
Right. And it could change before we get to August. So good to be planning. Okay. Group 9 is Jane, Judy, Carrie, Linda, Lori, Philip, and others. Out of group 9, who's your spokesperson? Go ahead and unmute.
I don't think we really chose a spokesperson, but I was taking some notes and anybody can jump in afterwards too. So in Fairbury, they're doing in classroom coming through the cafeteria and everything will be served to them. In St. Paul, eating in the gym and telling the person the point of POS number or their number to the point of service person. In Alma, Judy said they've had 0 cases in their entire county. That's pretty awesome. So they're pretty much continuing in classroom with normal precautions. Grab and go, they've done with the waivers. And then we just talked about some other things too. So anybody else from my group, go ahead and jump in. In Ashland, we are actually having a meeting tomorrow. We've done a task or created task force. So tomorrow our food service task force is having their first meeting. So I have no plans in Ashland.
Awesome. Anybody else want to join in and say anything? Okay. Group 10 is Becky, Jenny, Jody, Lisa, Ray, Robin, Sarah, Sue, and others.
Am I going to be talking?
Sure, go right ahead.
This is Jody. I'm from Pawnee City. I think in our group we have a lot of schools that are still not sure what they're going to be doing. At our school, we've been talking since June 1 about what we're doing, and we pretty much have a plan laid out. We're going to be using regular trays, but we have a cover that we've sourced that we will be using to cover the trays. The preschool will be fed in the classroom. The elementary, or we'll feed them in the classroom. The elementary will come to the cafeteria, which we have the line set up already mapped out, and they will get their trays and go return to the classroom. And then they will disperse their leftovers into one compartment of a tub and their trays in another, and we will retrieve those and bring them back to the kitchen. The high school and middle school will eat in the cafeteria and the gym at tables that are all set up, that are socially distanced, and they will all be facing the same direction. So, and breakfast is going to be all grab and go. So we will feed, elementary will come in the morning and they will get their breakfast and take it to the classroom. And middle school, high school, we will feed a grab and go style in the high school between first and second hour. See what else? The point of sale, we have a portable point of sale, which I got for us last year with grant money. And so we have portable point of sales, and our kids learn their numbers in preschool. So they'll be telling their numbers and we will be entering them for them.
Sorry.
I'm not sure what else there is for me to cover. And we'll probably, my school district wants to keep things as normal as possible. And so I will still be doing a la carte and things like that too.
Awesome. Okay, so next we have group 11, which is Bill, Bryce, Sheila, Sherry, let me say something. Sherry, Stacy, Tom, and Valerie. So group 11, Bill, Bryce, Sheila, Sherry, Stacy, Tom, Valerie, and others. Go ahead and unmute yourself.
This is Bryce, and I'm at Southern Valley. And a lot of people, again, like everybody else is saying, nobody has any computer.
Go ahead. I think someone wasn't muted. Did I accidentally? There you go. Try again, Bryce.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, you're good. No echo.
Okay, so so most have that, don't really have a plan in place. What we're going to try and do is we're actually going to try and do everything still in the cafeteria. And we're actually ditching all of the lunch tables. And we're going to go with round tables and putting 3 kids to a table still in the cafeteria. We feel that we can social distance better in the cafeteria than we can with 20 kids in a classroom. And then you don't have the added cleanup and all that kind of stuff in every classroom. So that's what we're going to try and do. I think we still are going to try and do the offer. We're going to kind of prepackage some things for this salad bar and that kind of thing, and have somebody hand that out to the kids. We are going to we do have a punch number that we've been using before. So we're going to have a 3-ring binder kind of thing with the barcodes at that point of sale and see how that goes. I am a little afraid that that's going to maybe slow things down a little bit, and we just might have to go to paper pencil and just re-enter them at a different point of the day by somebody else. But we're going to try that first and see how it goes. And then if we'd ever close down again, we just go back to delivering meals again, and that kind of thing. So.
Very good. Awesome. So to recap about the alternative meal services that your school is planning, we have some people that are going to be dishing up the salad bar in individual cuts of line that students take from that. And then, of course, some in the classrooms, a lot in the cafeteria. And somebody put in the chat box that they were going to use plexiglass in front so the kids can't grab things, which is great. I know another school is using plexiglass to divide the students to keep them socially distanced that way. And then Milk Choices using the crates so that they have, instead of sending down one type of milk, they're going to get options with the fiber and milk crates if they serve in the cafeteria. So a lot of good thoughts are going into meal planning and service alternatives. The point of service will be is the same. A lot of good thoughts on how you're going to deal with it, whether it's rosters, if it's entering their ID numbers, or somebody else entering their ID numbers. Oh, is my speaker not working? Can you hear me?
Beth, you muted.
I'm not muted.
Beth? Oh, we're getting a lot of.
You know, it's just a second.
Beth, I can hear you.
You can?
Yeah.
Okay. It keeps telling me that my speaker is not working. Sorry. I don't know why. It's my computer. Nobody else.
Yeah, we
Okay,
can hear you very clearly.
Okay, good. So, those are some of the things. One of the questions in the chat box was who determines who is on red, yellow, or when you're on red, yellow, or green, and that would be up to your committee, your superintendent, and working with your health departments on how active COVID is in your area. Somebody has mentioned that they don't have anything COVID activity in their area, and we do have 20 counties at this time that have no COVID activity. So they're going to be different from the other areas that are active. The tray covers for serving is a great idea. We had individual servings for everything to meet the meal pattern. Water in the classrooms or in other places was brought up, and that's a good alternative, and or having someone serve it for them. Hand washing, that's going to be a big deal. The CDC is recommending hand washing over hand sanitizer. You can use the hand sanitizer as a second barrier to get off the rest of the more germs, I should say. Won't get all of them off, but it'll get more germs off to help protect the students. So hand washing before eating and as often as possible for the kids. Let me check the chat box again. Okay, somebody, Elaine wants to know who is doing cold versus hot meals at the start of the year. I have to, anybody want to answer that? Who's going to be doing cold meals versus hot meals?
Here at UTAN, we're going to be doing some sack lunches.
Okay.
And really thinking shelf stable, that don't spill and make messes in case you have to be in the classroom.
Right, right. Okay. Anybody else? I know a couple. Yeah, go ahead, Judy.
Hey, nice to see you and learned a lot. But I've been trying to chat, and you know me, I'm not computer savvy, but I might have misspoken. But Elma is not serving meals out of the classroom, as our group leader said. Just in case our superintendent reviews this, I want him to know.
Okay.
We're pretty much normal here. You know, I suppose sees what comes down the pipe, but with precautions.
Right.
But no, we aren't planning on classroom. Thanks,
Good.
Beth.
You're welcome.
This is Donna at St. John and Seward, and we're hoping to serve in the cafeteria, so students will come through the line. Hopefully we'll be able to stay with the hot meals. It's going to be a little bit more simplified. We're not going to plan on doing any soup anytime soon, because if we do have to go back to the classroom, that'll be the day that the menu is soup, and there would be soup all over the hallways. So I'm not gonna. Yeah.
That could be a challenge.
yeah. So I'm trying to get a simplified menu for the first month or so, and then we'll just go from there.
Sounds good. Carrie, do you want to clarify? Carrie Nielsen, do you want to clarify?
Okay, sorry.
That's all right.
No. What am I clarifying? No, I was apologizing to Judy that I misspoke when she said about the classroom thing. So I am so sorry, Judy, that I misspoke on that.
No problem. I'm still trying to just get back on the chat.
It's not as easy as it looks. You wanted to clarify the offer versus serve and meaning veggies. Oh,
Yeah.
you want clarification.
Yes.
Okay.
Our group was just still kind of confused about, you know, if we have that waiver for offer versus serve, then that means we don't have to meet those. But I thought I understood Sean saying we still have to meet those veg subgroup requirements.
Right, right.
So we just wanted to make sure we're good with that, because then people have, you know, with the fruit and veggie bars, if we can't use those, exactly how do people do that? You know, just want some clarification on that for everybody.
I will answer that. But I have a terrible echo. I'll try it again. Oh, sorry.
Sean, do you still have your other second computer on? Weren't you using 2 computers before? Sean, is it still on? Is your second computer still on? Because it might be those 2 conflicting with each other.
You're a genius. Thank you. I want to explain that meal pattern flexibility. That waiver is only if you cannot procure a food component. It doesn't allow you any other flexibility. If you are unable to procure, let's say, the morning of meal service, your milk company calls and says they can't deliver your milk. That would be an instance where you would contact our office, complete a waiver request, and with Nutrition Services approval, then you can claim that meal with that missing component. So that's that meal pattern flexibility, because USDA in their ultimate wisdom is planning ahead that there might be instances in the future where you won't be able to get a certain food component. But that's what that waiver is about. It doesn't provide any other flexibility. You are still required to meet meal pattern requirements. And meal pattern requirements, I am reminding you, for K through 6, you have to plan for the fruit and vegetable components, 3/4 cup of vegetable and 1/2 cup of fruit. For a high school, 9 through 12, it's 1 cup of vegetable and 1 cup of fruit. If you choose not to do offer versus serve, which is now an option for 9 through 12, you're not required to do offer versus serve. So if you plan on taking meals to the classroom or delivering them for students that are doing remote learning, then you have to plan for the full portion size, which is the 1 cup of vegetable, 1 cup of fruit. Now, vegetable subgroups are still required. So you would need to plan your menus to meet the weekly vegetable subgroups. Now, did that clarify it for everyone? I hope so. As I was looking at the chat box, there were some other questions I wanted to talk about. Now, Jane, you had asked about preschool and how that was going to work at your school. If you serve in the classroom, then you are required to meet the preschool meal pattern.
I wasn't worried about the meal pattern. I was more worried about the serving it, and obviously kids aren't going to help themselves. Is it okay to have the teacher serve it and then not set the bowls on the table?
That isn't family style. And I'm going to let see if some other team members can join in on that one, because I don't think that's been addressed. Anybody want to voice on family style dining is where the student serves themselves in the classroom. Bowls are set on the table.
I don't think the question has been addressed to us by USDA as far as any alternative at this point. I know the idea of passing the bowls around with each child helping themselves, to me, would not fit this current situation, that you would almost think a teacher would be allowed to place a portion of an item on a tray. But at this point, we haven't received any particular guidance from USDA. I think that's all we can really say at this point.
Right.
Mandy's not recommending family style.
Or rather have have the pre-plated meals ready to go.
Yes. It's her recommendation. Mandy's the lead food safety inspector for schools.
So I agree, but I hope we get some guidance soon.
I think we'll get more guidance on a lot of different things. But right now, those waivers and flexibilities are all we have. So there might be more coming down from USDA, but at the current time, that's all we have. Any other questions that we didn't talk about? Now's your opportunity to ask.
I have one more question on the offer versus serve. I'm planning to, if I can figure out how to make it happen, send the parents the list of what would be the day's menu and have them pick what the kiddos will want, knowing that they have to pick either a fruit or a vegetable. Is that going to meet the offer versus serve standards? No, the kids have to be able to do it right in front of me.
I'm trying to kind of wrap my head around what you're describing. So you'd send a menu home and parents would mark what their student would want, like in the situation of remote learning. Is that what you're talking about, or?
No, my school is going to be feeding 100% in the classroom. So kids will not be able to go through my line and pick what they want. So if I send home what I'm going to serve that day with all the choices, no.
Mm-mm.
Not
To me,
at all.
that does not meet the definition of offer versus serve. The student has to be able to decline the food item. When you're serving in the classroom, it sounds like you're going to be serving the complete meal. Now, another option would be, then that would put the responsibility on your teachers to ask.
I was hoping if I gave them the opportunity to pick what they wanted ahead of time, I could actually send just what they want, not have to do across the board serve. We haven't done that for a long time, so I know that's going to make a big difference on how much food we go through. So
I think we're talking that the complete meal would be served.
Okay.
Yep, in the required portion sizes.
All right.
Because Elaine, you're basically, and you feed quite a few kids, you would basically be doing a custom tray for each child?
Yeah, and I've kind of worked out, I know that our numbers are going to be a lot lower anyway, but I've kind of worked out how I could do that as long as I had the meals ahead of time. Or the orders ahead of time. I was just going to go through the lunch line and put what each child wants, mark the lunch box, and then send it to the classroom. But I have to be able to count on the orders being to me, not the day of. So Yeah, so it didn't, just listening today, I realized I might not be able to do that
Right.
and still do
Yeah,
offer.
it's up to the child to pick and choose with offer versus serve. And if parents are doing it, then the child's not. And if they're doing it ahead of time, then kids change their mind. They don't. They may very well want everything that's being offered. So.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Good to know. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Any more questions?
I have a question. If you do the offer versus serve and you have a plexiglass in front, but the students can do a thumb up or a thumb down and you serve their plate, would that still work?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Then you give them what they want, and then you hand them their tray, and it's may not be as much as they wanted, but they got what they wanted.
If you can figure out how to do offer versus serve, that is fine with maintaining, safety. That certainly is okay. In the group that I was in briefly, they talked about having a food service staff person serve the fruit and vegetables from a bar. So the student goes through and they say what fruit vegetable they want, and then it's served by the food service staff person. That's another option. Any other questions?
I do have a question. So with our school, if we have like the younger grades, K through second, possibly eating in the classroom, the olders, we're just a K-8 school, so it'd be like 3rd through 8 would eat in the cafeteria. Can we split that so we do serve in the classrooms and then we can do offer in the cafeteria? Can we split that, or does it have to be one or the other?
No.
Split it. You can
Okay.
do exactly what you described, where K through second would be served, where all trays would look identical.
Okay.
And then offer versus serve, where students would go through and be able to pick and choose the components, 3 out of the 5, with one of those being at least a half a cup of fruit and or vegetable.
Okay.
Would those items on the salad bar need to be pre-cupped?
Well, if a food service staff person is serving it, and as John described, behind plexiglass or something, no, they wouldn't have to be pre-cupped. If a student would be going through and picking up, Beth, help me, of course they'd have to be pre-cupped if a student was picking it up. Would that be acceptable?
They can pre-cup, but a para or a teacher or some staff person, if they're serving off the salad bar, that's fine, as long as there's a plexiglass protecting the food in front of them from the other. I would not let a student do it.
So the main concern is the student touching each utensil to get it. That's the main concern.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And maybe not being as sanitary as an adult would be.
Okay.
So if it's pre-cupped, they could potentially just grab the cup and go? All right, that makes it a little easier on me because I have a very small serving line.
Right. And it'll depend on how active you are, your area is with COVID.
Okay.
But if you're not active, you can do pretty much, you can be back to fairly normal with some safeguards. But if you're active, then you're going to want to be more restrictive.
Beth, have you seen the questions where they're asking if they do pre-portion fruits and veggies, do they have to be covered? Do they have to have lids?
It depends on if it's the kids are grabbing it or not, because you don't want the kids to touch every single one of them or accidentally reach to the back and touch the ones in front of it.
So could you hand each student a pair of gloves and they could go through the salad bar then?
No.
You couldn't hand them a clean pair of gloves to go through the salad bar?
That'd be pretty costly. How many gloves are you going to go through a day?
Well, it depends on what grades we let do that, but
you can think about it. I'll check with Mandy also, but
There's nothing to stop a kid from touching their face or
true
with gloves on. And so it just sounds like maybe the potential for cross-contamination with them touching their face, then touching the utensil, and then another kid using, just doesn't sound like it kind of defeats the purpose.
Those gloves are only going to fit a high school student anyway. They won't fit, elementary.
I know that schools that have student volunteers may need to rethink that because the kids are going to not be able to touch each other. They're not going to be able to, they're going to have to be very strict with the kids if they are in the serving.
Great questions. Any more that you want to ask?
I have a question. When we apply for the school lunch program, do we have to apply for each of those waivers or just pick one of them, or how do we go about doing that?
Stacy, what a great question. Those are nationwide waivers, which mean that they apply to every school that's participating in the school meals program. So it's not an individual application. They're nationwide waivers. So it's USDA's flexibility with meal patterns. So no individual application is necessary.
Okay, thank you. I also have one more question, sorry. I know we have during the school year, some parents want to come eat with their children. Is that, I would say no, but I don't think that would be have parents eating in the cafeteria when we're trying to limit exposure. I guess I just don't know what your thoughts are on that.
I think that would be a school district decision on if they want adults in the lunchroom, especially when they're trying to implement social distancing and safe, having adults come in also. So that would be a district decision.
Okay, thank you.
I'm glad you asked that question because that's one that I would have never thought of. What about adults that want to come in with their students? So that's probably a question that many schools need to be asking their administration.
I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
The non-congregate feeding waiver, is that strictly for the virtual learning, or how is that to be utilized?
The non-congregate is for students that would not be in attendance at school. They would be doing remote learning.
And do they have to fill out the application then before you can do that, or what? The free and reduced?
Well, if they are eligible for meal benefit, every household needs to be given the application, income eligibility application, and made aware that they can apply for benefits. And that waiver doesn't have, you have to count by students' eligibility category, okay, for non-congregate meals that are sent home. So you would have to have a mechanism in place to make sure that you're counting that eligibility for that. But the application is for all students.
Right, but if that household, it wouldn't be like now, like the household, if there's children in the household that aren't in school, you wouldn't be feeding them, correct?
Correct. Thank you. This is, we have, when school starts, we are not participating in the summer food service program.
Right.
We are participating in the National School Lunch Program.
Right, correct. Okay, thank you.
Yes, thank you.
I do think you bring up a really good point regarding if a school district is going to be doing remote learning, and that is thinking about a way in which you find out which students are going to want a meal to go home, because now parents need to understand that if they qualify for reduced price meals, they pay 40 cents. If they are full pay, they're going to pay full price for that sack lunch. So I think that's one more thing to think about, that you're not just having meals available for every student, because some households may not want them.
Any more questions before we close out this meeting?
This isn't really a question, but I know it was said before about the dial and that kind of thing. And what I kind of found out on a meeting today with the health departments is that most likely those are going to get updated on a Thursday. So it's not going to change from Monday, Tuesday to Wednesday. They're probably going to update them once a week.
Mm-hmm.
So for those on here that are fearful that they might have to automatically switch to something the next day, I think you would have probably till Monday, to try to figure that out. So that's what our local health department said in Southwest Nebraska anyway. So I think they're all doing them the same day as the way I was getting it, but I'm not 100% sure on that. But I did get from them that they're only going to do it once a week.
Thanks, Bryce.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, Beth, I saw that you said recommended that you wear a mask. Now, is that during prepping, just during serving, when we possibly could be around the students? And then I saw somebody else further up had asked too, if you have a sneeze guard, do we need to add plexiglass in between, like our serving areas?
If you have a sneeze guard already in place, you should be okay for the serving line. Not the salad bar, because most salad bars are too open. And if you are serving on the line and you have total plexiglass except for one little area, you want to expose each other. If somebody has it, go for it. But it's up to you. We're just they're putting these things in place to help keep people safe. And by wearing masks and by washing your hands continually, by not letting people touch things too much, we are protecting the students and the staff and pretty much everyone. So, to the best of our ability. We can't do anything about what they do outside of school. But inside, washing your hands, wearing your mask, keeping them safe.
Are most schools or districts requiring teachers and like all staff members to wear masks?
Haven't heard. Bryce, have you heard? Your superintendent?
Geographically, I would say the closer you are to Lincoln and Omaha, the more likely that they're going to want you to wear masks. And as further west you get, it's not going to be required, but just recommended. So I think what the most districts are battling, is if somebody does get positive, you have to send people home who have been around them that don't have masks. So, you know, if one second grader in a classroom gets positive and nobody in the room, including the teacher, has masks on, everybody's going to have to go home for 2 weeks. And so by having a mask will prevent that. However, especially out here in rural Nebraska, there's not a lot of support for wearing masks. So but as far as what we're going to do as a district is we're going to communicate and say, we aren't going to require them, but if they don't, this is going to be what is going to have to happen. And so don't come complain to me about when that happens if they aren't wearing a mask, you know, so.
Right.
My superintendent sent out a staff survey to find out where everybody felt on the range of wearing one or not wearing one. And we had like some members of our school that had, you know, autoimmune diseases. We have, you know, diabetes. So a lot of it was like, I have to wear it for my health. Can you please maybe wear it for my health as well? And so we're kind of like, yes. It's like, we don't want our staff to get sick, because if, you know, finding staff to fill in for subs and in the kitchen, it just kind of became like and we're only, you know, 15 minutes from Fremont and then about an hour from Omaha, but we just figured be safe. And that's my take. I'm sorry.
No, thank you, Karen. People that wear masks wear it for themselves and also the people that they're around. So
being respectful of others.
Okay, so the nutrition services team continues to work remotely. We don't have a plan for when we will be back in the state office building. You can certainly contact us via email or phone. We anticipate hearing from you, want to hear from you. If you didn't get your questions answered during the webinar, please email us and we can follow up with you. The next webinar will be in 2 weeks. And just a big thank you to everyone that hung out with us for the webinar and for the discussion. We really appreciate your time and your questions and your input. We're all in this together, and it certainly is helpful knowing what your questions are and how we can help you serve those meals. So anything else before we leave the meeting? If not, I'm going to go ahead and close out the meeting. Thank you so much. See you in 2 weeks. Bye.